Welcome, everyone, to a four-part series. I was actually originally going to make this one a large video, but then I thought rather than having, say, an hour-long video, we'll break it into segments of roughly about 15 to 20 minutes. And this series is literally going to be about what you need to know and what you need to have in place in order to pass these prop firm challenges, such as FTMO, Funding Talent, My Forex Funds, for example. Now, as majority of you will have seen over on my Instagram, that I have actually just passed. I'm funded with FTMO up to $400,000, and then I've just passed one Funding Talent challenge and verification for 100,000, and then another additional 100,000 on Funding Talent as well. And they're literally just running a trade at the moment to pass the second verification to then be funded in total 200,000 with Funding Talent. Now, don't get me wrong, I've been there. Very briefly, just quickly say that I've been there in my trading journey. This is going into just over my fifth year now in trading. So I've had the downs, of course, and these are now seeing obviously the ups for the last few years with consistency. And that came through a number of things that will kind of be highlighted throughout this series as well. Now, why I've done this is simply because when I first started trading 5 years ago, there wasn't any of these opportunities available when it came to prop firms, being able to trade larger sums, into that six-figure bracket, unless you're doing it yourself or acquiring an investor. So the opportunities that we have in front of us are incredible, and they shouldn't be taken lightly, which is number one. And everything should be done still in a correct manner, and we shouldn't feel this sort of sense of rushing or that we're able to jump or skip steps just because we have this access to higher capital. So this whole part one is all about mindset. That is the foundation of anything you do in life, anything you want to do successfully, anything you want to do and achieve. It all starts with your mindset. Now, it's more specifically thinking in terms of mindset towards these sort of challenges and prop firms. So to start with, of course, it's not, as I said, it's not about getting rich quick or fast route. That's one thing you have to understand. Because if you take that same mentality, just like with trading as a whole, if you take that mentality of this is a quick way to be rich, every single time, that's like a gambler's mentality. That's always going to end result, not only in losses, but also, of course, failing the challenge. And therefore, would be an easy route for you to just end up losing money over and over. So quite simply, you got to think about it in terms of what it is truly an opportunity, because at the end of the day, the guidelines from the offset. So let's take FTMO and Funding Talent as the examples, just because they're the ones that I actually am personally funded with and tested myself personally so far. And they're very similar as well. So, you have step one, which is 30 days trading days. Then you have step two, verification, which is 60 trading days. Now, you have to realize that those numbers are slightly different because they include the weekend, right? And, as we know, the Forex and commodities market is closed. The only market that's open on the weekend is cryptocurrency, which most people don't really sort of day trade, especially not on MT4. So that being the case, you have to realize that those 30 days are actually 20 days and those 60 are actually 40. And therefore, you're just realizing that as well. Now, the work has to be done before starting the challenge. Yeah, all the hard work of passing that challenge actually is done before you do that challenge. As again, the mindset being correct, right? Not feeling a need to rush, not feeling a need to be aggressive and need to pass it in a day or in a week or anything like that. Understanding that as well, that you have 20 days for the challenge, for example, so you don't need to pass in 1, 2, 3 days, right? Don't force it. If the market gives you such an opportunity, fantastic, but don't be forcibly doing it. I've seen many people try and do that. And same with the verification. You actually have longer time to get less of a target, and that is more so to probably entice you to rush because you've just done it obviously in a shorter time frame with a smaller target, and therefore your mind will automatically think, okay, let me just get this quick, right? And that's not the mindset that we want to be having. So when it comes to the work being done beforehand, you will see great examples of this as we go into the different parts. So the second part will be about the biggest mistakes that people make. The repeatable process will be part 3. And then part 4, we're going to go on the chart and give examples of repeatable processes. So yeah, it's going to be really good when it comes to the work. They're the sort of works you want to realize. They're the sort of common mistakes people make. You want to know about, obviously, the repeatable processes that you want to have in place when it comes to, obviously, completing a challenge and verification and getting funded. And then obviously we'll go examples of what repeatable processes can look like. Now, the best sort of mindset you can have towards any prop firm challenge is really treating it as an investor, because that's simply what it is. It's investor capital, if you will. You're trading someone else's money. And therefore, we want to treat it as such. So, if that's the case, if let's say you had an investor who was willing, an actual individual, who was willing to give you 6 figures or even 7 figures, you're going to want to impress them. You're going to want to be on the ball to secure that. Now, just because you don't speak to a particular individual, or at, say, for example, FTMO, doesn't mean that it's any different. They set out the guidelines from the very start. Before you sign up, you know exactly what you need to achieve. You know your limit, your restrictions, if you will, their drawdown limits and so on. And it's just our job to then follow that to a T and to complete that and respect that. Okay. Now, one thing you have to realize is that these challenges are all designed to make money from your failure, if you will. Okay. Not to speak badly of these prop firms, not at all. It's just simply business for them. But at the end of the day, you have to realize that these prop firms are making money from people's failings, right? So for the majority who fail, right, because about 90%, for example, who fail these challenges, these prop firms make enough money in order to pay the profits of those who are profitable. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm sure the prop firms probably have managed to sync up a copy trader as well, and to copy those profitable traders so that they're actually profiting on live markets also. But just keep in mind that, ideally for them, losing and then paying again for a challenge is what they're looking for. Just like a broker, right? They want you to lose so you can keep depositing money. And therefore, you have to be very mindful about the psychology, of what the trading days does to you, what the drawdown limit does to you, because these are the things that play on your mindset to feel pressure, to then from that pressure go off plan, go off your repeatable process, and therefore take unnecessary losses that don't need to be there. Okay. And if that's the case, and we are aware of that, that's number one, being aware of that before we actually step into a challenge, we should hopefully then not be put off by that. We should not be almost influenced, if you will, by these restrictions, or not even restrictions, but these rules, right? Because again, we should be knowing that, well, we know already before we sign up, so we should be accepting of that, right? That we know that we have this particular time, but again, as we go through the different parts of this sort of 4-part segment, you'll realize that by having certain things in place, like a repeatable process, proper risk management, those things will get much clearer as we go along. Now, don't let what I've just said dishearten you when it comes to the signups, because when a trader has true discipline and a system that they follow, they can be profitable. Not only myself, but many of our Vipers and many people I know personally who are funded with, say, FTMO and even Funding Talent have been paid out, consistently as well. And that's one thing to note, without any issues. So don't let that put you off. So when it comes to this segment, when it comes to mindset, it's quite simple, quite short. So what I'll try to do is actually release part 2 rather than every single week. I'll release it a little bit earlier because we're going to go into the biggest mistakes that people make when trying to complete these challenges, and also, funnily enough, when they actually have completed it and the trading account is now considered live, and obviously it counts because you're going to get that profit split. So hopefully this was enjoyable. A little quick insight into the sort of mindset you want to be having when coming into this. It kind of works that we're coming off the back of, obviously, the Monday masterclass I uploaded last week, where we were talking about the mindset shift, being in a state of faith rather than fear, not being a drifter in the trading space. That mindset also applies, obviously, to when it comes to trading prop firms. Is extremely important to realize that, and to influence yourself through the correct mindset. You know, stepping into any form of trading challenge, even outside of trading, stepping into any form of challenge, or competition, if you will, with the correct mindset. With the correct mindset of winning, basically, and doing everything that comes with that. At the end of the day, there's winning actionable or actions, if you will, that need to be followed, which is following a strict plan. One thing I will share just before we go on is I've had one student, for example, who, for 3 months stuck to their plan and were getting over 10% results every month. And then they did the challenge. And then as soon as they did start at the challenge, they allowed the pressure, if you will, and the sort of rushing mentality to take over. And then they went off plan, failed that challenge. And the funny thing is, they knew straight away why they did it. They straight away went back to trading their plan without a challenge on their personal account, was back to doing 10% plus months, and then has completed a challenge now because they learned their lesson. And that's something very wise. And you need to understand that even if you don't pass first time, it's completely possible to do so. But even if you don't pass first time, take the lessons. Don't rush into another one. Step back. Take the lessons of that so-called failure, because the only way it isn't a failure is when you learn from it. So take what you need to learn from that, reevaluate, practice some more before then obviously jumping into it again. Because the last thing you want to do is do exactly what you do on a personal trading account, for example, where you keep, say, blowing an account and loading up more money. That's not what you want to do in this scenario. And you don't want to do that anyway, to be honest with you. You want to step away from that mindset. And again, sometimes having that moment for yourself to just step back and do that self-analysis rather than just charting analysis, self-analysis on your mindset, where you are in your journey at the moment before then taking that next step. I hope that helps. Part 2 will be uploaded shortly. And again, it's going to be on the biggest mistakes that people make when trading and doing the challenges, and then also when they actually get the account. I'll catch you on the next one. Please, obviously, let me know in the comments if this was helpful. If you want to see more, if there's any questions you have, obviously, please subscribe as well. And again, catch you on the next video.